Do you know what fear looks like? It's not a scream. It's silence. When an entire city knows that a man is coming. A man who builds towers out of skulls. A man who believes God chose him to erase civilizations. His name was Tamerlane, or Timur, the scourge of empires. And this is how he became the lord of the end times. In the heart of Central Asia, in the dusty plains of Transoxiana, 1336, a child was born to a minor Turkic tribe near the city of Kesh, not far from Samarkand. He was not born a prince. He was born a hunter, chasing gazelles through the steppe, learning patience, speed, and the art of striking without warning. His people descended from the same bloodline that worshipped the memory of Genghis Khan. And Timur grew up hearing stories of Mongol thunder, of how one man could unite tribes and crush kingdoms. He listened, he believed, and he swore that one day he would be greater. As a young man, he fought in tribal wars. And during one skirmish, an arrow shattered his leg and another pierced his arm. He survived, but he never walked normally again. His enemies mocked him, called him Timur Ilang, Timur the Lame, the name that history would twist into Tamerlane. But weakness? No, he turned it into symbolism. He learned to fight through pain, to lead through fear, and to speak with the cold authority of a man who refused to die. The 14th century was chaos. The Mongol Empire had splintered, its khans fighting each other for scraps of power. Persia was in ruins, and the Silk Road, the great artery of the world, was bleeding from war. Where others saw destruction, Timur saw opportunity. He began uniting the fractured tribes of Transoxiana, not through diplomacy, but through terror. If a chief refused allegiance, Timur burned his village to ash. If they obeyed, he showered them with gold. Every choice was simple: kneel or die. By his mid-30s, Timur had built an army, not vast in size, but unmatched in discipline. A force that lived off the land, struck like lightning, and vanished before their enemies could breathe. He called them his chosen, and through them, he began carving a new empire from the corpse of the old Mongol world. He wasn't just a warlord. He was a tactician, using psychology like a blade. Before attacking a city, he'd send word: surrender, and I will make you rich. Resist, and I will leave behind a monument of your bones. And people believed him, because when he took Khwarezm, he built a pyramid of 70,000 skulls. He moved like a storm, first to Persia, then Afghanistan, each conquest feeding his legend. But his ambition was not land, it was order. Timur saw himself as God's instrument to punish the corrupt and rebuild the glory of civilization under his rule. He rebuilt Samarkand, turning it into the jewel of Asia, a city of marble domes, scholars, and poets, funded by the gold of 1,000 dead kings. For every city he burned, he built another grander, his empire rising from the ashes he left behind. By the 1370s, Timur had done what no man had since Genghis Khan. He united the steppes under one banner. And now, he looked outward, toward the world. To the west lay the broken lands of Persia and Iraq, still echoing from Mongol collapse. To the north, the Golden Horde, descendants of Genghis himself. And to the east, the rich kingdoms of India. Everywhere he turned, he saw enemies and destiny. He began calling himself Sahib Chiran, the lord of the fortunate conjunction, the man fated by the stars to rule the earth. In 1383, he descended upon Herat, the pearl of Khorasan. When the gates opened in surrender, he promised mercy. Then, he slaughtered everyone inside. His generals asked why. Timur replied, "Mercy breeds rebellion. Fear breeds loyalty." And the world began to tremble. By 1387, he had conquered Persia. By 1393, he had taken Baghdad. By 1395, he crushed the Golden Horde and burned Moscow's outskirts. He was now more than a conqueror. He was apocalypse made flesh. Cities surrendered without battle. Kings sent tribute before he even arrived. And in Samarkand, he built mosques, gardens, and observatories, symbols of civilization built on foundations of terror. To his people, he was a hero. To the world, a nightmare. But Timur's hunger was not yet fed. He looked toward the greatest empire still standing, the Ottomans in the west, and the Delhi Sultanate in the east. Two crowns, and only one man who believed he had the right to wear them both. So in 1398, at the head of 100,000 men, Tamerlane crossed the Hindu Kush into India. The cities closed their gates, The rivers ran red, and the legend of the man who burned empires reached its peak. But that is where the fire was just beginning to rage. As smoke rose over Delhi, and the world whispered his name with fear and awe, Tamerlane stood on the ruins of kings and said, "I am not the destroyer of worlds. I am their judge." He claims its punishment. The Sultan of Delhi had insulted him. But really, it was hunger. For glory. For gold. For legacy. Crossing the Indus River, his men leave nothing behind but smoke. Villages vanish overnight. Cities fall without a fight. And as the capital of Delhi looms ahead, even the Sultan's elephants, armored in steel, turn back in terror. At the Battle of Delhi, the sky turns black with arrows. Tamerlane watches from his horse, calm as stone, while his soldiers unleash fire and steel upon the Indian ranks. Within hours, the city that had stood for centuries collapses. He enters Delhi not as a conqueror, but as judgment itself. For days, his troops loot and slaughter. So many die that the rivers clog with bodies. When it's over, Tamur prays. And when a soldier asks if he regrets the bloodshed, he answers quietly, "I was sent to bring order." Order is never clean, but his order comes at a cost. Behind him, empires smolder. In front of him, only dust. Tamerlane returns to Samarkand, his capital now glittering with plunder, gold, silk, scholars, artisans dragged from every corner of his empire. He rebuilds the city as the heart of the world, a paradise forged from ruin. The mosques gleam, the gardens bloom, and yet, beneath every stone lies the memory of a burned kingdom. But even as he rests, new threats rise. To the west, the Ottoman Empire, led by Sultan Bayezid I, the Thunderbolt, a warrior king whose empire stretches across Anatolia and Europe. To Timur, Bayezid was not a rival, he was an insult. Two rulers, two sons, and the sky had room for only one. In 1402, the two greatest armies of the age collide near Ankara. Tamerlane's men, horse archers hardened by decades of conquest, face Bayezid's elite Ottoman troops. The battle rages under a choking summer heat. Then Timur does what he always does. He turns the battlefield into a trap. He lures Bayezid's cavalry forward, splits their formation, and unleashes his reserves from the flanks like a hammer of God. When the dust clears, the Ottoman army is broken. Bayezid is captured alive, the conqueror of Europe, now caged like an animal before Tamerlane. And what does the Lord of the End Times do? He doesn't execute him. He keeps him alive, parading him in an iron cage, forcing the once proud sultan to dine beside him in humiliation. It is cruel. It is petty. It is power, the kind that demands the world remember who is greater. Within a year, Bayezid dies in captivity. And Timur? He doesn't stop. He celebrates by rebuilding cities, commissioning palaces, and planning his next war against the Ming dynasty of China. In 1404, he is 68 years old. Most kings would have long retired into legend. But not Tamerlane. He still believes the stars have one last destiny written for him: to conquer the East and become ruler of the world. His armies stretch across the horizon, hundreds of thousands of men marching into the frozen steppe. The wind howls. The earth groans beneath their feet. And still, he rides on, frail, sick, yet burning with the same fire that started it all. In the dead of winter, somewhere near Otrar, the man who never lost a battle finally meets the one enemy he cannot defeat. Not a sword, not an empire. Time. He dies before reaching China. No throne, no battlefield. Just a tent in the snow, his body wrapped in silence. They carry him back to Samarkand, where his tomb still stands, engraved with words that seem like prophecy. When I rise from the dead, the world shall tremble. And tremble it did. For even centuries later, Tamerlane's name still echoes through history. The shepherd's son who united nations. The crippled warrior who terrified kings. The builder who burned to create. Some called him a monster. Others, a savior. But one thing is certain, Tamerlane didn't just conquer empires. He consumed them. And in his shadow, the world learned the price of unstoppable ambition. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Also ensure to check out other amazing stories from this channel. Thank you.